Hi everybody, it's Marcy, and I've got some more little, not notebooks, notepad thingies that I've made. Um, as I was digging through my Christmas buckets, I found a collection that I've had for a few years. It was Prima's Santa Baby, and I just had a little bit left over. And I've been hoarding it for what reason, I don't really know. Well, I think because I love it. But I didn't really have enough left to do a lot with. So I did with what I had. Most of what I had left were some little cut apart sheets. So that's what I worked with. And what I did for some of them, like this was a full sheet. So I made a side-by-side notebook. I left two of them side by side and just made a little notepad. And then used some of the little bits of paper I did have left over, and some of the chipboard pieces. Like this one I decorated with some of the little die cuts I had left over. So I made that kind, and then I had some of the cut aparts that were already cut apart, and so again made the little closing sleeve with chipboard and a little bit of paper, and I made some flip up ones. So just flip up little notepads, and I just used plain cardstock on the back and some crinkled seam binding on the top. Not gonna lie, I think the closures make the whole thing. I love the little closures the little belly band sleeve closures that I made for these. So that's what I made. And really quickly, let me show you how I did it. And then I'll show you what I did with the leftovers. So for this one, of course, like I said, two side-by-side cut aparts that I just left together, cut them out as one. Then I've got some of these really small composition notebooks, and I've taken the strings out of it. So I cut those down, cut down 10 sheets, so you'll have a total of 40 pages. And just put that in like so, cut them down. I did round the corners, and I apologize, some of this I did before I came on camera. I got carried away with my sort of assembly line method. And now I just want to, if you have a long reach stapler, this kind of project would be perfect for that. I don't have one that's long enough, so I'm actually sewing mine. So I'm just gonna do a quick 3-hole pamphlet stitch. And I'm not measuring. Okay. And I am going to actually, normally I start my binding from the inside to leave my tails on the inside, but this time I'm going to go from the outside in, and I already moved my papers. Let's see if I've got them lined back up yet. Okay. There we go. So I'm just going to leave my tail there. And string that through. And back through the center hole. Have the string come out on the other side from where my initial tail is. And just tie a knot in it. This goes much faster and smoother when I don't have my camera turned on. Why is that? I'm doing the exact same thing. The only difference is instead of thinking thoughts in my head, I'm talking out loud. But I have the camera on, so... Okay, so just cut off those strings, and then I've got this crinkled seam binding. I got this from My Scrap Cabin Shop. I'll leave a link to her Etsy shop below. I absolutely love this stuff. She's got, seems like a gazillion different colors. The price is good. And I absolutely love using this stuff. So, what I'm going to do, because I don't want to leave, well, A, I want to cover up my string. B, I do want to give it a little, even though it's just a little gift, I want to give it a little, the spine, a little bit of protection and just a little extra something, something. So I'm going to take this crinkle bind. I need a little more here. There we go. All right, so I'm just going to take my crinkled seam binding and I'm actually going to stretch it out. Lay it down. And before I glue the back side, I'm going to go ahead and cut off the excess here. And then I'm going to come around on the back side, put a little more glue down. And just wrap it around. Now I get in there and really trim the excess off. Okay. So that's simple. That way it gives it, kind of gives it that same kind of binding that the little composition notebook has. Only mine's cuter. Okay. Says me, anyway. All right. Then, and I've already done all of these, I took a 1.5 inch. My cards ended up being 3 inches wide by 4 inches tall. So I took a 1.5 inch wide by 7 inch long piece of, and for this I'm just using copy paper, and then a little piece of cardstock. For each piece of chipboard, I had to make a different size backing paper, so I can't tell you what size. And then I just put a piece of chipboard on it. And wrap that around. Put a little glue on there. And close it. The other day I made some of these little belly bands for something else I was trying to keep closed. I think maybe the spiral notebooks, and I was using a cardstock to make it. I found that just using a lighter weight paper, if you don't have it glued somewhere. Yep, I probably need to pull that off because my binding, this glue isn't completely dry yet. But what I was saying is a lighter weight paper is much easier to slide on and off. So I'll let that dry, and then I can put the little belly band back on. Then for the cards that were left over that I had already cut apart, I rounded the bottom 2 corners and cut a piece of plain cardstock the same size and cut down single sheets of the composition paper. And then, and I've already done this again, I scored both pieces of cardstock at 1/4 inch from the top edge. That is not necessary. I did it to give me to use as a guide for myself. So for these, I just put them together. And then for these, I am using my tiny attacher. And the guide I wanted was so that I would know I don't want my staples to go below my score line. So I'm just going to put a couple of staples in. On this one, I'm just going to be using 2 since I just ran out of staples. And then I'm just using my pokey tool to be sure that my back staples are flattened. And then I'm going to use the seam binding again to make a topper for it. This seam binding, the pink seam binding, is so light that it doesn't really hide the staples. You can still see them through it, but it covers them up. Gives it a nicer look. So again, just squish the seam binding into the glue. And again, I'm going to go ahead and cut off my excess. And the reason I like cutting off my excess after I've got one side glued is I find it much easier to cut it off when I can still straighten it, as opposed to cutting through 2 layers when I've got it folded over. But it doesn't matter a bit. Okay, and now not sure that I left enough. Put glue down and barely left enough on this side. But I did it. I got the staples covered. And there's that one. And then the other reason that I like scoring it is because then I've got a natural place that the pages can be folded back. So I just grab a couple of pages at a time and go ahead and give them a little crease. Straighten it back out. And put a little belly band on this one. I love the milk and cookies. So after I did these, I still had just a little bit, well, still had a little bit of paper left over, but not enough to do anything big with. So I got 5 of this style little notebook, 5 of this style little notebook, and then I used some leftover stuff and I pulled out a brown paper bag and I had some slightly larger pieces of paper and I made a little sack journal. You can see here I had no fabric that would really go with this, so I went with something entirely different and used the blue ticking fabric. And I just made a small little journal using a paper sack. It's completely blank. And like I did a lot of alternating lined paper, like there's some tracing paper with white paper. And the reason for that is I wanted it to be very plain. I did put a couple of little charms in the signature. Did add a pocket here I had one little card left over. But I wanted it to be very plain. Obviously, I used some of the chipboard pieces on the front here. But here in the sack part, I made a little envelope. And inside, I put the rest of the die cuts. That way, whoever receives this can take this plain little journal and decorate it themselves. And I thought that would be a lot of fun. Just a fun little Christmas project. They can make their own notes, decorate each page however they would like. And it will close like this. I added some more of that crinkled seam binding as a closure. To cut some of that off, but I can do that later. But just a simple little journal that somebody can decorate up however they would like to. So, and I really think this is a cute idea. I might make more of these, and if I do, I'll show you how I did everything. But I think this is a cute idea to basically use up the last of, stuff, and now all I have left out of that entire kit are those little scraps. And actually some of those could go into here as well. So I pretty well killed that off. Anyway, so that's it for today. I got more little mini notebooks made and a little bitty journal made. And guys, I am having so much fun doing this. I know everything I'm making is really simple, quick and easy to make, which is what I need, because I want to have everything ready to go by Thanksgiving, so that right after Thanksgiving, I can start giving these away. And I've got to give props to my mom and dad. They live in Florida, and several years ago, they would go walk on the beach every morning, and there was a group of people, they didn't really know them, but a group of people that they saw just about every morning. And so one Christmas, they went out, and for a few days, I believe, they carried candy canes with them. And everybody they saw, they were just handing out little candy canes and wishing a Merry Christmas. And I thought that was such a neat thing to do because, again, it just brings a smile to somebody's face, even if it's a giggle, because it's such a silly thing to do. So that's really kind of what I'm trying to do here, is just bring a smile to as many people as I can during the holiday season. So until next time, everyone, please be safe, stay healthy, happy crafting, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.